Good evening. Today I would like to talk about compassion, why we need to have compassion and what compassion actually is. Compassion to a Buddhist is a necessary aspect of Buddhism. Compassion means that we understand, and our understanding of suffering is complete. Suffering is without beginning or end. When we came into this life, suffering was already there. When we pass from it, suffering will be there as well. Suffering is without beginning or end, and we need to comprehend that we live in an ocean of suffering without borders. It goes and goes and goes. Now, we need to have compassion for ourselves, and because we are involved in this, and we also need to have compassion for others. So, I cannot strongly stress enough the need for compassion. We cannot become enlightened without compassion. It is a necessary component of compassion and of enlightenment, and we need to be generating compassion on a daily basis. In our meditation, we need to be generating compassion, and we need to try as we go about our life and bring about compassionate acts during the day. These can be very small things or very large things. They can be things that we plan or things that are spontaneous. Helping someone drop something to pick it up. Being compassionate on that level. If you see someone who's troubled, sit and listen to them. Perhaps there's no solution that you can offer them, but you can sit and listen and thereby help them and have compassion in that sense. So compassion is a very fundamental aspect of our meditation, and we need to pursue it with diligence. We need to be compassionate. If we are compassionate, we cannot be angry at another person. If we are compassionate, we cannot be uncomfortable with the discomfort of another person. If we're truly compassionate, we're at ease at all times. I often refer to compassion as the great annihilator. It annihilates our anger. It annihilates our discomfort. It annihilates our confusion with the world. Many times when we read a newspaper or watch TV news or something, we hear news, it can inspire us to be quite troubled. The things that we hear, the things that are chosen by others as to the diet of news that we supposedly need to hear. These things can be very troubling, and they're very difficult to get away from in our society. We don't live in the forest. We don't live in a forest monastery. We live in a very populated place, and even if we're not living here in this populated place, we live with other people. And as such, various things can happen, and we can find ourselves troubled, angry, annoyed, so forth. If we have compassion with other people and for other people, and if we have compassion for ourselves, we will always find ourselves at peace and at rest with the various things that happen. If people say things to us that make us uncomfortable while we're walking or sitting or in a group of people, if we have compassion for that individual who said that, then we have a great peace around this. We look at them and we think that this person is suffering. This is what suffering is. This is this person's suffering. This is how it manifests in this individual at this moment. In another moment, it manifests in another way. We can see suffering manifest constantly around us. We sometimes think that if a person is wealthy and powerful, that they don't suffer. Conversely, we think that if someone is homeless, that they suffer a great deal. Well, the homeless people do suffer a great deal, but so do the wealthy, powerful people suffer a great deal as well. All people suffer in this world. This is something that we cannot get away from. The only way to get away from this is through meditation, and to meditate with the intent to become enlightened. Now, One of the things that can cause us problems here in our meditation is doubt. Doubt can cause us great problems. Great confusion comes about through doubt. We can feel motivated in our meditation, feel motivated in our practice, but then have doubts. We will have a doubt about this or that. Something doesn't seem to fit. And we can say then that we need to practice more. We need to practice harder. You know, it is said in the practice of the Dharma, the Buddhist practice, that if you think you're enlightened, think again, because you will shortly have some doubts and things won't fit as neatly as that momentary sense of awareness that you had. So, you know, when we find the Dharma in our life, it's like a lost child finding its mother. Suddenly there's great joy. Suddenly there is a great sense of relief that the Dharma has come into our life. But we need to follow it. We can become, you know, through stressful situations, through changes in our family, deaths in our family, and so forth, we can lose our way and lose our practice. Many people lose their practice. This is something that happens. Life can intrude, and we can actually forget about our practice. But if we think to ourselves, yes, but when I lose my practice, I am like a lost child. I am confused, I'm wandering from thing to thing, and I have no direction. When I find the Dharma again, I have found my mother again, and now I have relief, now I have direction. The Dharma provides us with a reason to do many things. The Dharma provides us with a reason to have compassion. The Dharma provides us with a reason to be good to others and to be good to ourselves. Now, tonight I would like to read some questions. And the first one is, this is from a practitioner. This question was raised to me recently, and I don't know if I answered it correctly. Does one have to believe in reincarnation in order to have a full Buddhist practice? Now, this is a big question in the Western culture because reincarnation strikes us as something to believe in. And because of our training and education, it seems like a far-fetched belief. We cannot underestimate the thoughts that rise in our mind. If we come to our practice with the understanding that our mind has no thoughts of its own, it is clarity. There are no thoughts there. Thoughts are rising constantly because the aspect of the mind is that things have to rise constantly. Every time we see something, that rises. Every time we hear something, that rises. So something is rising constantly in our mind at all time. Now, when it comes to reincarnation, this troubles Westerners a great deal. And people will even reject Buddhism on that basis, to say, well, you know, this reincarnation thing, I don't know. I don't know if I can believe in it. Okay. Reincarnation is not something that we need to believe in. If we understand emptiness in time and in our practice, we will come to the conclusion, the very logical conclusion, that reincarnation is indeed a fact. Now, so there is nothing to believe in, and the Western idea is that we need to have a belief in this sort of thing. Reincarnation comes with an understanding of emptiness. At a certain point in our practice, we will understand that this is just a logical conclusion, and it will almost be an afterthought. So when you begin your practice, I wouldn't even bother thinking about reincarnation. As a Westerner, I wouldn't even trouble myself with those sorts of thoughts. As a Westerner, I would just begin my practice, and I would, things that I have doubts about, I would just leave them on the shelf, leave them over here. There's no sense in getting involved in them in the beginning of your practice. If over time, if you have a greater and greater practice, a greater and greater understanding of emptiness and the role of compassion and the understanding of the nature of your mind, the more we have this, then it becomes common sense to us that reincarnation would be something that would happen. So it's really something that just comes about. And I would not trouble myself in trying to understand it and put it into practice. We have certain religions and so forth in the West where it is said that we must believe, we must have beliefs. That's because they're based on the supernatural. So we must have beliefs in this and beliefs in that. Buddhism is not something that you believe in. Buddhism is something that you practice. It is a wonderful practice. The Dharma is a jewel. The Buddha, the Sangha, the Dharma, these are the three jewels. And the Dharma is a jewel. If we practice this jewel that was given to us by Buddha, an ordinary being, if we practice this jewel, then we will find our life becoming a much better and better thing for us, more peace, more calmness, and more happiness. So what I would say then is that the Dharma is, the reincarnation is an aspect of the wisdom of the Dharma, and it's an understanding of emptiness. The second question, I believe is, well, the second question I'll read. I feel like my life isn't where I was hoping it would be by now. How do I not let this get me down? Well, this is something that we can feel from time to time in our life, and it's something that perhaps we've all experienced. We have expectations, and when we believe that the expectations have not been met, we become someone who starts to feel bad, and we feel like we have lost something. But what I would say is that let's take this step by step. I feel like my life isn't where I was hoping it would be by now. Well, you have expectations. Expectations are natural to have, but perhaps if we're really living in the moment and we are in a sense of awareness, we understand that our expectations are something that rises like all other phenomena, all other thoughts rise in the mind. So our expectations rise in the mind too. If we have expectations, these are thoughts that we are following. Perhaps we follow them every day. We wake up in the morning every day and we say, well, you know, today I will buy a winning lottery ticket, or, you know, I will feel better today than I felt yesterday. These are expectations. Now, if we give up all of our expectations, we find ourselves no longer troubled by this, no longer troubled by where we are in this life. We have to remember that this life is one of many lives, and what we accomplish in this life is what we accomplish in this life. We live in a culture that sees things very differently. We live in a culture of delusion, thinking that this is the only life that we have, and that you know, we need to embellish our name, that we need to make as much wealth as possible, that we need to, people used to think they had to have as many children as possible. So all of these things are based on ego pursuits. This is all ego, these ideas. So when we say my life isn't where I was hoping it would be by now, there's some aspect of ego there, but rather than to see it in just terms of ego, let's see this as the illusion of following our thoughts, and that we have certain thoughts that we need to be someplace at a certain time. Again, we're seeing time, And if we see this life as simply a vehicle to do as much as possible in our practice and prepare ourselves for our next life, then time is no longer a factor. Time is not something that we need to compute. If we are 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60, it's immaterial. It does not matter. It's what we accomplish in the overall terms of this lifetime. As said, we can accomplish two things. We can strengthen our practice and have peace and find peace and happiness in this lifetime. And we can also strengthen our compassion, our sense of compassion for the endless suffering of all others. Now, when we think that if we feel that our life is stuck, we need to understand that life changes constantly. The explanation of emptiness is constant change. Emptiness is constant change. There is no way that we can stop emptiness from changing. We ourselves will become older. We change constantly. We change every day. Everyone around us changes every day. All things change. Even things that appear to not change, change. So everything is changing on a constant, rapid basis. And if we have awareness, we see that these changes are, and we embrace these changes. How do we embrace the state of constant change? What if we are in a place in our life where we feel, oh, everything's just perfect now. You know, I have everything I want. I'm living in the place that I want to live. I have everything. I have a good job. I have someone perhaps in my life that loves me or that I love. And I have people in my life that I love and they love me. Everything is perfect. Well, we have to look at this and we have to say, yes, but change is constant. And how are we going to deal with this when we think to ourselves, it's no longer like it was, and I'm not happy now. I used to be happy, but I'm no longer happy. Well, that's because we're clinging to a state that was or appeared to be an appearance that we thought was perfection. And yet things change constantly. So there's an expression, we should be just as happy to live in a mansion with clean sheets on our bed every night as it would be for us to live in a dirt floor hut and sleep on the floor. So change is constant, and it is not the outside appearance that we can find that would make us happy or sad. Is the inside, our understanding of emptiness, our understanding of the life, what life really is, the fact that this life is to help ourselves as much as possible. It does not matter what state we appear to be in. It does not matter where we seem to be living, what the conditions are around us. The conditions around us may be painful, they may not be painful, but our practice is still our practice. We can still have happiness within ourselves no matter what our outside conditions appear to be. Remember, these are appearances. And an appearance is our interpretation of events. An appearance is something that rises in our mind. If we see this appearance as, oh, this is not so bad, other people think this is bad, but I don't really care, I don't think it's so bad, then we find some level of peace and happiness in this situation. We can do this with everything because all things are simply another thought. They have no basis in fact. Now, the next question is about karma. Why does karma seem to be immediate and sometimes might take years or other lifetimes to manifest? There's a lot of confusion about karma in the Western mind. Karma, I think, initially is seen as something that we have that is there, is a sense of retribution, that karma is like if we do something and hurt another person, if we damage something, that we will have karma to pay. And karma is something that's paid, so it's a sense of retribution is the general understanding of karma. But karma is a bit different than that. Karma, we can say, if we smoke cigarettes, the karma of cigarettes is disease. Now, conversely, we can say that if we spend our life helping others, that the karma of helping others is harmony and peace in this life. So karma is a concept, in a sense, is understood to be a concept, but karma really is cause and effect. So if I wave my hand, the air moves. This is a sense of karma. This is how karma operates. So we can do good things for people, and we can find harmony in our life. We can do difficult things or negative things for people or to other people, and we will find ourselves continuing this negative behavior. When we become enlightened, finally, all karma, all negative karma is cleansed. If we think of the many lifetimes that we have lived, perhaps we lived the lifetime of a tiger. Now, the tiger needs to interrupt the lives of others to eat, to survive, to live. And all the time, it is creating this negative karma. In its very nature to live, it must create negative karma. This karma then needs to be dealt with in another life. And this karma is dealt with in another life. There is no saying how it's dealt with. Perhaps the next life is a human life, and this person is then becomes very sad their whole life, or has some sort of difficulty their whole life. So the karma, what we don't want to do is create negative karma. This is where we can have an effect. This is where things begin. If we don't create negative karma in this life, if we hunt animals for just the pleasure of interrupting lives, if that's a pleasure to someone, then this is extreme negative karma. If we hurt others, damage others, steal from others, charge others too much in our dealings with them, make the lives of other people difficult, be mean to others, this is negative karma. We need to stop producing negative karma in this lifetime. If we end the negative karma that we're producing, then we will find harmony in this life, and we will begin to pay back these karmic debts. Now, we have to also see that we struggle here with Western thoughts, and we want to understand that our thoughts are something that rises. So if our mind has no thoughts of its own, then we are free to think new thoughts, to have new understandings. All thoughts are concept, and we live in a conceptual world. In the West, we seek beginnings. Science, all ideas are focused on seeking beginnings. But in Buddhism, we have no beginning. We have no beginning and no end. All things are endless. So we need to understand that we have these lives to live, and we need to create positive karma and harmony in the world around us. This is an aspect of our Buddhist practice, and we do this by generating compassion for all beings. Compassion, endless compassion without beginning or end. Compassion where we don't even need to think about the person who we're giving the compassion to. We become such a compassionate person that the compassion streams from us like light coming from our body. This is the compassion that we seek. Now, that's it for the questions tonight. But I do want to focus on doubt, that we have doubts, and when we have doubts in our practice, that they cause great confusion. And these shows will help you if you're having doubts about your practice, if you're having doubts about your life in general, if you're having doubts about anything in your life. When we think of doubt, we need to think to ourselves this one thing. We need to think, have no doubts. Have no doubts. If you have a Buddhist practice, think to yourself that we have no doubts, that we don't wish to have any doubts. If we find ourselves having doubt, we will become confused. We will become confused and troubled. So, in the words of Garchen Rinpoche, have no doubts, never have doubts. Pursue your practice with the intention to become enlightened. Have compassion for all. This is very important. So, I wish to thank you for watching, and see you next time.